Hi everybody, I just wanted to sit down to recap the discussions from June 11th and 12th. I just have a few things to say, but once again, your discussion posts are really impressive and insightful, and I really enjoyed reading them, and I really have no criticisms, just a couple of comments of things that I was thinking about while I was going through your discussions. So for the June 11th one about printing and piracy and reprinting, pretty much all of you agreed that piracy served a greater good at the beginning of the print revolution by drastically democratizing access to information. And then most of you concurred that it was also a net societal good that piracy was countered by the introduction of the concept of intellectual property rights and consequent laws protecting those rights. In other words, European society transitioned from a stage of anarchic intellectual property rights to the commodification and legal substantiation of those rights. This legal commercial regime of intellectual property rights has remained more or less intact in European culture and its offshoots, like the United States, ever since. I think this state of affairs requires us to ask how our relationship to knowledge would be different if instead we had a different historical pattern of intellectual property rights. What if, for example, monarchies had imposed the system of monarchical privilege upon publishers from the very beginning? Alternatively, what if, recognizing the short-term benefits of intellectual property anarchy, we decided that it would be best for our epistemological culture to oscillate between periods of intellectual property anarchy and legalism, instead of just being in a legalistic, commodified commercial framework forever. If we're all in agreement that there are societal benefits to the radical democratization of information exchange facilitated by unchecked piracy, as your almost universal agreement in your discussion post seems to suggest, then why have we never even temporarily returned to such a system? What does all this mean in the context of the early internet, before the formalization of streaming services, in which free and unfettered access to all film, music, and other cultural products was available to anyone with a computer and an internet connection? What effects did that have on the cultural education of the masses? What effect then has the formalization of the streaming economy had on cultural education? What about as streaming becomes increasingly formalized, commodified, and expensive necessarily? So, in your universal agreement of the benefits of piracy, you all seem focused on the quantity of information circulation that it made possible, and much less concerned with the quality of information that resulted from a piratical, ungoverned regime of information exchange, although some of you did remark upon the quality implications of unchecked information exchange. Are we starting to notice a pattern in this class as we investigate the ways that technological revolutions induce social, cultural, or political revolutions, especially those that change the nature of the relationship between society and information by revolutionizing the production, reproduction, circulation, and preservation of information? Because that is a pattern in this class, and I think that pattern is especially important right now because we're in the midst of our own information technology disruption with potentially revolutionary consequences. I'm referring to the generative AI revolution. This discussion focuses on the social, cultural, and political effects of a technological change, that is movable type printing, but don't forget to simultaneously bear in mind the cultural, social, and political changes that facilitated this technological change. So just be mindful of the co-productive nature of social, political, and cultural effects and technological effects. So that's everything I was thinking about for the June 11th discussion. For the June 12th discussion, the pictorial one, all in all, another great round of discussion posts and peer responses from y'all. I hope you enjoyed this pictorial approach to perceiving history, changing the medium a little bit. My only recommendation for this post would be that many of you were preoccupied with the military aspect of your choice in painting to the exclusion of the other two components of the triple revolution of interest to us here, the political and commercial revolutions. Because the primary historiographical goal of this class is to get you to think about the ways in which technology is co-produced with/by politics, culture, economics, religion, philosophy, etc. Put simply, social stuff. It's important to remember to always think about the technological stuff and social stuff together, simultaneously, which will be a recipe for success in this class. And it will also be a recipe for success as a person living in a technologically mediated world. I'm looking forward to the rest of your discussions this week, and also I will get your grades back to you from the first critical essay soon, and I'm looking forward to reading those. So have a great week.